we have Good morning. This is Monday, the 23rd of November, last class before Thanksgiving. And in World Taught, we'd like to start you off with chapter 15. Our next philosopher, Rene Descartes. And up here before we start is our quote for the day. Remember, you're braver than you believe. You're stronger than you seem, and you're smarter than you think. That is quote 32. And a lot of truth to it, especially as we look at Rene. I have several facts and information. Once we get back, we're going to look at the mediation, and each one of you are going to be assigned an oral report you're going to prepare. And then I'm going to read them over the videos to each of you, and it'll be an assignment. But you should enjoy something a little different than just answering questions. So I'd like to begin. Rene was in 1596 to 1650 AD. And if you don't have your book open, it's chapter 15, it's page 339. Now, Rene was considered the father of modernity. Okay, that's kind of a different term, but modernity can mean different things. And if you just think of the word, the modern age of new times in the late 1500s, early 1600s, he represented a Christian movement or a Christian civilization that was branching out into three areas. And the modernity is the idea of following principles through the fruits of what's around you, and basically in three areas, as I'll get to them. Now, Rene says these particular things. The fruits of applied science, that's the advancing of ideas that are already there and adding to them, is key to understanding yourself and to understanding how God is immersed in you. Now, these applied sciences that he talks about are medicine, democratic styles of government versus monarch dictatorships, and don't ask me why, but the arts, the music, the way to communicate through the arts, he thought were really virtues that people should have and should pass on. Now, Rene says these quality things. Now, one, you must follow an orthodox tradition. In other words, there should be some tradition that you base your thinking on. And before that's broken into the three sets, we must apply some of these. Your faith, too, your faith must be reasonable. you can't go around and just say things that have no meaning or no purpose that can be applied through the sciences. Now, he heavily believed that you can have some supernatural ideas, but there still has to be a Christian backing or thinking of how this can be so. How can you discover it through your mind, your soul, and your faith? Now, again, one, you must follow Orthodox traditions. Now, this would be, going back through, this would be like the old original Jewish traditions and Christianity. Oh, the creeds, let's say, the Apostles' Creeds, as they're passed on. Your faith needs to be based upon the reasoning of these traditions. And then how do you pass those on to the next generation is very, very key. Okay, thirdly, Christianity itself is a faith, is a belief not only in yourself, but in a God, in a deity of Jesus Christ. And it cannot be too supernatural. If you look at the writings in the Bible and the storytellings that go through history, some of the stories are, wow, how can he have done that? And the only way he could have done that was to be God Almighty that was capable of it. But he still gave us, not Renee, but God gave us things to grasp a hold of that could be believed and not too far-fetched out there or supernatural. Now, fourth, all believers, he says, should be able to deal with their critics. As a Christian, you're going to be criticized. It's not going to be easy, he says. And through science, an understanding of science and nature in your mind, in the Christian doctrines and creeds, you should be able to answer questions and defend questions that will carry on respect and that will carry on this journey of finding out who you are, what you are, and how God plays a role in your faith, and how God plays a role in your soul. Now, these roles would be outside the basic traditions or Christian Orthodox traditions, but yet still have a premise to fall back on. Okay, now, in order to prove his points, he wrote what we call the Meditations. And the Meditations are a lot like somebody else that we've already studied. Augustine's Confessions would be an example, but Renee's Meditations, and here's something you probably have heard of before. In Greek, Italian, cogito ergo sum, it's the principle of all philosophy based on science. And basically all it is, I think, therefore I am. I am a thinking being. I have a mindset. I have faith. I have beliefs. I have things that affect me from the outside inward and from the inside outward. And this came through trial and error, but Renee is given a lot of credit for this principle of basic philosophy. Again, I think, therefore I am. Without that ability, I would just be just another animal, another plant. I have a ability that God has given me beyond, but it still has a basics to the applied sciences. And from him, other people take this even further and use the same logical step-by-step approaches that already were actually given to us through Augustine and others during and before him. Okay, now the actual meditations are broken into areas, and I'm going to give you those for today. And then I am going to sign each of you in this class one of the meditations, and then you will write a report that I could read to each of you. And here they are. These are not going to be assigned to you until we get back from Thanksgiving. There will be no other homework other than you reading this short chapter on Renee in the meditations. They're easy to understand, pretty clear cut, and it behooves you to take some really good notes on what they say. Okay, the first one, the first meditation, of the things of which we may doubt. This is number one. Can you always believe the basic things that are there and that are in front of you? Here's a far-fetched example. Right outside this window, there's a tree. Is that tree really there? How do you know? Well, your basic senses tell you. Now, can you trust your basic senses? And mankind has even come up with more than just the 5 basic senses. They came up with a 6th one they call intuition. It's a feeling, it's a gut feeling that it's there. I see it. Our senses tell, I can touch it, I can feel it, I can smell it, especially certain times of year when the leaves are blooming or if it has flowers or whatever. But the thing is, of things in which we may doubt, is there room to doubt these things? That's the premise of the first meditation. Is all this just a dream, he says? Is it something that we've created? And he has some interesting answers for you as you read them. Number 2, of nature, of the nature of the human mind. Is it more known than the body? And does it take our body to understand our mind to understand how our body functions? I think scientifically you can look at this meditation and put, things with it and to it. I'm starting to get a red light, so I'm gonna, on my message, I'll try to speed this up just so we get the other ones in. 3 is of God, that he exists. Okay, it's blinking, but I think it's still. And the 4th one is the beauty of immense light. So those are the 4 meditations that we'll come back to. I'm hoping this will stay on just enough time. The beauty of immense light is basically what it is. It's the place of God. There's a red light. It's not going away this time. There it goes. Of God in meditation. Is there a place? So with that, we're going to sign off. Sorry about this. The batteries went totally dead and I don't have any replacements. See you when we return from Thanksgiving.